2nd marks the end of World War II. A memorable yet scaled-down ceremony took place in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where the dignitaries of more than 50 included surviving war veterans, Governor David Ige, and Navy Admiral Philip Davidson of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. But it was the keynote speaker's remarks that our correspondent Mio Acenas highlights in this report. Take a look.
It is fitting that we are gathered here today on USS Missouri, where the conflict in the Pacific came to an end on this day in 1945. This ship, which was built for war, has since been dedicated to peace and reconciliation. It now rests in the very harbor where more than 2,400 Americans paid the ultimate price nearly 8 decades ago at the beginning of World War II.
Days before the actual ceremony, organizers hosted a Legacy of Peace aerial parade, wherein combat airplanes of different shapes and sizes used in World War II flew several times around the island of Oahu. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the event itself had to be scaled down by invitation only, while others had to join in virtually via live stream. The event began promptly at 9:02 a.m., which was the actual time that Japan formally surrendered to the Allies in a ceremony that ended the deadliest conflict in human history. The destroyer USS Michael Murphy rendered honors as she sailed by the Missouri and Arizona Memorial, which marked the beginning of America's involvement in World War II. Defense Secretary and keynote speaker Mark T. Esper described the long-term effects of the war and the role that the United States had to take on to prevent such a war from happening again.
In the aftermath of World War II, the United States assumed the mantle and the responsibility of leadership, recognizing that the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans would no longer protect us from conflicts started abroad, from ideologies with hegemonic ambitions, or from governments with malign intentions. It was America's time to lead, and we did so, guided by our founding principles and core values. The United States rose to the challenge. We built relationships with like-minded nations based on reciprocal trade, not predatory economics, based on respect for the sovereignty of all countries, not a strategy of might makes right, based on a commitment to always honoring our international obligations, not just when they serve our interests, and most importantly, based on our enduring values and beliefs. From our alliances with Japan, South Korea, and Australia, to our long collaboration with ASEAN countries, India, New Zealand, and the Pacific Island countries. Growing, deepening, and unifying this network must remain central to our collective strategy to ensure peace and prosperity for another 75 years and beyond. We welcome every nation, especially those that have benefited most from today's international system, to join us in this effort. For decades, the United States and our partners have based our efforts on the belief that today's free and open order, however imperfect, is worth fighting for. And while this system has largely remained intact, we cannot take it for granted or leave its future up to chance. That is why, together, we are committed to improving it and remain ready to defend it, much like the greatest generation did when history called and fate challenged.
Finally, the Secretary thanked all the veterans for their service and sacrifice in defending the nation.
It is because of your selfless service and your sacrifice that we live in peace and prosperity today. And it is your legacy that inspires us in our efforts to uphold the freedoms and values for which you so nobly fought. Thank you all very much.
The end of World War II in Europe, also known as VE Day, will be commemorated in Washington, D.C. on September 25th. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, I'm Mio Acenas for Eagle News. We live in interesting times.